Whether you want to revive a favorite comforter, preserve a family heirloom, or just be eco-friendly, there's lots of great reasons to rehab your comforters and old baby blankets. In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can revive your comforters. This project was inspired by a comment that I received on the Fairfield World blog, and I really love this idea, especially as someone who likes to repurpose and recycle. And it's a perfect fit for Fairfield World because they are really into sustainability. Some of their products are made with recycled materials, and everything that they do has sustainability in mind. So to start off, to figure out which method would be best to use with your comforter, you want to look at the back side of your comforter and see how quilted it is, okay? So this example, it's just got a little bit of sewing there. This comforter obviously has a ton of quilting and is going to be impossible to undo. So that's what I'm going to be showing you in this first part of the tutorial. This is for refreshing a comforter when you can't remove the existing batting. So maybe it is just too quilted, too many threads to undo. So we're going to leave it the way it is and add new batting to it with a new backing. So in addition to batting, for this method, you're going to need another piece of fabric that is going to become the new back for your comforter. There's a variety of fabrics you can use for the backing of your rehabbed comforter. I'm using a cotton fabric, but you could use like a soft minky fabric, a velvet, if you want to make something a little more plush. So I have cut the batting to fit onto my baby-sized comforter. This is actually what I used in one of my son's toddler beds. So it has some sentimental value, and I'm glad that I can refresh it, fix up some of the torn edges, and turn it into something new. Since it is toddler baby-sized, this will make a great lap throw. Now, once I have cut the backing fabric and my batting to fit, I'm going to arrange it this way. I've got the comforter right side up, and then I've got the backing fabric right side down, and then I'm going to put that batting on top of it. Once I have that arranged and lined up, I'm going to weigh it down, and then I'm going to pin all of the pieces together. Just pin all the way around the 4 sides, making sure that you're connecting the 2 fabrics and the batting together. Once that's all pinned up, I'm going to flip it over just to make sure that it's all lined up correctly. And then at this point, if I have any excess fabric or batting hanging off the edges, I'm going to trim that off. Next, I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and sew up 3 of the sides, and then just a bit of the 4th side, but leaving an opening, okay? So I want to make sure I leave an opening because I'm going to have to flip this inside out. So as you can see here, I have sewn it. You might be able to see the stitching on the very edges there. So now I can take out those pins and use that open section to flip my comforter inside out. Now, once it is all inside out and I make sure I've got those corners poked out nicely, I need to finish up that opening there. And to do that, we're going to do something called an invisible stitch. To create that invisible stitch, I have pinned that opening shut and ironed it because those creases are what's going to help guide my stitching. I start off with a knot on the end of my piece of thread, and I go into the folded edge there to get my knot hidden, and then I'm going to create that invisible stitch by sewing along that ironed crease there. So as you can see, I go on the bottom section first, pick up some of the fabric, and then now I'm going to go up to the top section directly across and pick up a little bit of that fabric in a straight line. And now go back to the bottom and repeat that same process over and over. And you can see it's going to kind of look like a ladder. There's should be straight threads going across from the bottom to the top. And when I pull that together, it's going to tighten up and those threads will disappear. So you're going to repeat this process, tighten it up, and then do a couple more of those ladder rungs up and down until that opening is completely closed. Once I have finished and closed that opening, I am going to end my invisible stitch by making 2 or 3 knots. So just go through a little bit of the fabric on the inside there, and then take your needle through the loop so that you can make a knot. Once you have that knotted, then you're going to take your needle right through the blanket and then clip off the thread. And when you pull it back, that little tail thread is going to disappear inside and you won't be able to see it. All that's left to do now is remove your pins and you can enjoy your new rehabbed comforter. I wish you could reach through the screen to feel this updated blanket. It is so cozy and so soft. I know that batting looks really thin, but I promise you it's going to add so much volume to your sad old comforter that, it's just been beaten down by age. This is really cozy and comfy, and it's going to make the perfect lap blanket for movie night. And I'm sure my dog is going to steal it because he just loves to cuddle under blankets in the winter, and this is going to be the perfect size for him to use. As you can see, he is really, really enjoying this. Next up, I'm going to show you another way that you can refresh your comforter, and this is if you're lucky enough to have one that isn't heavily quilted, one where you are going to be able to open up the seams on the edge and take the old batting out. Here's an example. This is actually my old bedding from my childhood bed. So it is just sewn along the edges. The top looks quilted, but actually the backing and the batting aren't stitched to it. So I could open up that edge and take out the old batting. For this tutorial, I wanted to use a smaller comforter. So I actually found this duvet at the thrift store. Our Goodwill has a clearance center. We call it the bins because you're literally digging through bins and you pay by the weight. So I don't think I paid more than 50 cents for this duvet cover because it weighs almost nothing and it looks brand new. So first up, I had to remove the zipper that was on it. Now, if you're using an existing comforter, you're going to use your seam ripper to open up that edge so you can take out the old batting. In my case, I was removing that zipper so that I could sew this more easily. Now, I'm using a larger batting from Fairfield World, but again, with your coupons and other things, this is going to be $25 or less. So with that inexpensive thrifted duvet cover, I am creating a new comforter for my son's room for under $30. And this is really easy to do because I didn't have to add any fabric. I simply turned that old comforter or duvet cover inside out and then cut the batting to fit it. Then I'm going to hold it in place with some weights, which in my case I'm using a candelabra and a vase, and I will pin up all 4 sides like I did before. This is going to be a little bit easier to sew because I don't have that extra fabric on the back. It's simply my inside out comforter and the batting. See there? I have sewn 3 edges like I did before, and now I'm going to take out the pins and flip it inside out. So as you can see, there is my opening that I can use to flip this inside out. And as we did before, remember, make sure you poke those 4 corners out before we sew that opening shut. There I am, making sure that that's out and in place. And then I will be ready to stitch up that opening and have my comforter ready to use. In the first part of this tutorial, I showed you how to do an invisible stitch. You could also do that with this comforter. I am going to show you a faster way to do it. It's not as attractive, but if you're in a time crunch or you don't have a needle and thread on hand, this is what you can do. Just like we did in the first part of this tutorial, you're going to pin that opening shut. So you're kind of flipping down the top fabric, flipping up the bottom one, pinning that closed. And this time I'm going to head back to my sewing machine and just sew a line straight across there. So that line is going to show, but I figure with a comforter of this size, that edge is going to be tucked under a pillow and no one's going to see it. So it's okay. But if you want it to be invisible, use that invisible stitch like we did in the first part of the tutorial. So see, you can see that little line there. The other edges aren't going to have that line because that's where I flipped it inside out. Again, if you want it to look like that, you're going to need to do the invisible stitch from part 1 of the tutorial. And here it is on the bed. I mean, this is a really cool comforter. And actually this design, I found the comforter online. It sells for over $100. And I made mine for less than $25. Pretty cool, huh? A great way to thrift, repurpose, and turn something old into something new and fashionable and fabulous. Have fun crafting and creating. See you later, my friends.